In my 20s, I worked as a fashion model and I treated my body like a machine that had to be perfect on almost no fuel. And from the outside, I looked like I had great discipline, but on the inside, it was really breaking me. I ran myself into the ground, living with little as possible and chasing standards that were never mine to begin with. I struggled with anorexia, depression, addiction, and even now, if I'm really honest, there are moments when I still feel that quiet angst that I need to be better, perfect, more than. But what changed in my life wasn't learning how to do it better or push harder. It was learning how to stop. Because for a long time, I thought that the answer was simple: more discipline, more control, more structure. If only I could hold it all together. But here's what I didn't realize at the time. When discipline is rooted in fear, it becomes control. And control is exhausting. It disconnects you from yourself. It turns your life into something you're constantly managing instead of actually living. And as it turns out, the biggest shift I made it wasn't external. It was internal. Everything changed when I stopped asking, what do I need to do? And started asking, what kind of person do I want to be? Because real sustainable change doesn't come from forcing behaviors. It comes from identity, who you are while you're doing what you're doing, becoming the kind of person who naturally lives a certain way. I like to call it being the person who, because when you become the person who, you don't need discipline in the way you thought you did. The first time I noticed this showing up was with food. It's not a secret. You need to keep a certain weight when you work as in modeling. But I could see that diets weren't sustainable at all. And well, anorexia wasn't either. So I became a vegetarian because I care deeply about humane practices for animals. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I wanted to also be skinny, but I also wanted to be the person who stood up for animal rights. And it also helped me maintain the weight that I needed. And this is where it clicked. I wasn't about forcing myself to eat less. I was about being the kind of person who lives in alignment with her values. And when your choices are aligned with who you are, you don't feel like you're constantly fighting yourself. It's not discipline as control anymore. It's identity, it's lifestyle, it's who you are. The second time I noticed this was after a deep spiritual experience. At first, I just wanted to chase that peak experience again, like I had to recreate that high. But then I realized it wasn't about the peak moment. It was about who I became because of it. I decided I wanted to become someone who could see bright colors and beauty in everyday life. Someone who didn't need constant peaks to feel alive. Someone who could make ordinary moments feel magical. And again, it was an effort. I wasn't shifting something internal. And I want to share something that happened recently that really brought all of this together. I live in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. And last year for my 53rd birthday, I went up the mountain alone, just me, a blanket, and a water bottle. My intention was to face my fears, to sit all night by myself and not run away. I should report that even when the bear came to visit me in the middle of the night, I didn't run away. But here's the interesting thing. The next morning, as I was walking down the mountain, feeling really good about myself, I thought, I bet I can run up this trail. It's 2 miles uphill, and I hadn't been exercising for about 3 years. But instead of forcing it, I committed to becoming the woman who could. It took me 30 days, slowly, inching, step by step. And when I finally made it to the top, what I was most proud of wasn't the run or the summit. It was that I had become the woman who could run up the mountain, dedicated, patient, committed, but kind with herself, the kind that can inspire others to do great things. And that's the difference. So now when people talk about discipline, I see it completely different. It's not about forcing yourself to do things you hate. It's not about controlling every part of your life. Real discipline is identity driven. It's becoming someone for whom those actions are natural, because when you become the person who, the actions follow, not the other way around. Today, as an executive coach, this is exactly the work I do with leaders, because they're not lacking discipline. They're operating from old identities. I help them stop managing just to survive and start designing their lives to thrive. We take the challenges they're facing, the ones that feel overwhelming, unfamiliar, bigger than anything before, and transform them into opportunities, not by doing more, but by becoming more aligned to who they want to become. If this resonates with you, if you feel like you've been stuck in that cycle of forcing, pushing, and still not feeling fulfilled, there's a link in the description for a private call. And in that conversation, we'll look who you are being right now and who you need to become to create the life you actually want. You don't need more discipline. You need to decide who you want to become, because the moment you become the person who, everything follows.